Monday Mornings with Matt and Kevin. These two will debate real-life issues from a Catholic perspective every Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern. Make the world Catholic again.
Well, happy Monday, everybody out there. It's absolutely a pleasure to be back with my co-host. It seems like forever, man. It's one of these amazing things. Like, even though it's a couple of weeks, it just feels like, man, it's been a long time. It's nice to be back on with you.
It's been a very long time, and the weeks go by quick. That's one thing, is the weeks go by quick. And how many times we've said, like, oh, it's almost, I don't know, it's almost Lent, it's almost Advent, it's almost all of these things, and before
almost
you know
fall.
A new year, it's almost fall, and here we are again. But yeah, no, it was good to kind of do. I did a few shows. I did one myself, which I did it on the Sacred Heart Temptations, and which I thought was pretty cool. I actually I bought the book Divine Intimacy, and I made a speaking. I slipped. I said Saint Gabriel, and nobody said anything about it. Once I played it, I usually, not all the time, but I listen to myself. I play it back so I can hear myself, and which I hate doing, by the way. I hate how I sound when I listen. And I'm like, somebody's gonna comment and somebody's gonna say he's not a saint, he was just a and I was waiting for it, and I filled it, and I refreshed the comments, and nobody said anything. So mea culpa. Part of
everyone needs to go to that video and just
comment. Yeah. So we'll dock a couple $1,000 off my paycheck next week. But for that, yeah. But and then Anna was on again with me today, she was on with me again for a second time, and it was really fun to do that show with her. And talk about abortion, and because that whole thing with Pearl saying is the abortion debate lost? Like, are we just done with it? So I brought her on for some good sort of rebuttal to that, and then you did your show the following week after that about Disney and all those fun things, which maybe we'll bring up today. And now here we are. So congratulations, by the way, baby number 3.
Thank you.
You're one quarter of the way to your goal. So
yep. Yeah, exactly. Wanting to get to 12 at least is the plan.
There you go. I support it.
Yeah,
breed like rabbits.
It's great. We had the baptism today, which is obviously,
you did.
Bigger than the birth. I mean, really, in
yes,
most
of
ways.
course. So congratulations.
The feast of St. Louis, King St. Louis, who's one of my all-time favorite saints. One of the manliest saints of really at all. So great day to be.
Talk about the divine providence of being a little late. Wow.
Yeah, got a good day
because it's King Louis who talked about how the day that's more important to him is his baptism. He said that was more important to me than when I was crowned king in Reims Cathedral, because he was made a child of the kingdom of God on that day rather than just France. It makes me sad to think what once was. What once was glorious Catholic.
It's like, we talk about, okay, what form of government do we want? It's like, what was King St. Louis? Whatever that was, bring me that.
Correct. Yeah. Whatever we had there.
Let's
just do that.
Oh man, bring it on.
People forget. I think
people to sign a petition.
More than that.
Monarchy.
I think though what's often lost in things like the monarchy, because he was very, obviously he governed like a true Catholic king, but he was also very generous to the poor, and I think that sort of gets lost in a lot of, for some reason, I think, and maybe this is just me, but sometimes we associate those things with like Mother Teresa and Novus Ordo land things, that trad Catholics are always about more so the doctrine and the dogma, which is true, but I think sometimes we lose that charity that I think is sometimes maybe associated more with the conciliar world. But King Louis was very, very, very good to the poor. He would feed them, he would clothe them, he would spend time with them. One of his great virtues.
Well, and it's interesting too that part of the reason why is because we allow the state to do that, right? It's one of the communist values. A communistic virtue is to make it seem like the state is feeding the poor, when they really they kind of do, but they actually just take it from your taxes. So you are feeding the poor without the benefit of being charitable. So it's a really kind of a tricky thing where they're like, hey,
gotcha.
You're going to pay for it, let's say, Medicaid or whatever, or Social Security or food stamps, but
public school,
we're going to take it from you, so it doesn't get to be charitable. So it is one of those kind of.
It's one of those things, Kev, where somehow I fall into your debt with my paycheck. Like that's always the thing that's kind
Yep.
of a little
That's
strange.
It's a weird system.
Which is why we need to vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz 2024.
She is going to bring us farther away from communism. That is almost a fact, right? She is the least communistic, candidates.
She's basically King Louis the Ninth.
Bernie Sanders. She's the least. Yeah. She might be more. What is? I've seen several videos of her lately about her actually, and I think these are fairly old videos, but about equity. Actually, truly trying to have an equitable society where everyone gets the same amount of everything. So it's like, I don't want just equality. I want equity. So no matter where you started, no matter where you are, everyone gets the same. Except for, that's not true because the people at the top. Exactly. The people at the top aren't going to be quote unquote equitable.
There's the saying, socialism is for the people, not the socialist. Because they want you to. It was like the thing with Obamacare. Remember that? Obamacare, the health insurance was so great that it had to be forced upon you by the government, but none of the members of Congress were included. They're exempt. They don't have to take it. But the rest of the public, you need to be a member. You need to join Obamacare and receive that health insurance and that plan. And yeah, it's like North Korea, Kev, where everybody has the same status. Everybody lives in the same government house, the same government food, all of that. And to equate one, like to pretend that Italian food is just as to pretend that like that German food is as good as Italian food. Like who would make such a?
I would argue that. I actually love.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Though I do have to say, I do think Italian does win, but
not on Kamala's list. It's all the same. They're all number one.
True.
They're all number one. You're number one.
Exactly.
Yes, we have no favorites.
So what do you think, Matt? It's been a long time, and there's been a lot that's happened in politics. And we had the DNC. Honestly, the DNC. I don't think much happened. I think the DNC was the other thing that struck me, Matt. I don't know if you saw this that I found really strange, and I wonder what your thought is on this. I don't know if you saw it. They were during the last day and before the last day of the DNC. The DNC is the Democratic National Convention. For those who don't know,
for
they all met in Chicago, and there were tons of riots and people, trying to break in because of Palestine and Israel. Really crazy stuff. But what really was strange to me was that they were promising that they're going to have a huge surprise guest on the last day. That they kept promising and promising, and the rumor was that it was going to be Beyonce or Taylor Swift. Beyonce was the one everyone thought, and she didn't show. She didn't. I mean, it's like, what do you think about it? Because it seemed everyone was talking about it. It was like it's going to happen. She's going to be there, and then no one came. That was
I've been following. There's a website called Polymarket. I don't know if
I've heard
of it, but it's fascinating to me, and it's been it's actually more reliable than polls. So instead of watching, the way I discovered it was back in 2016, I think it was, with Hillary and Trump, where the polls said one thing, but the odds makers in Vegas said another thing, and the odds makers proved to be right. And they have a track record of being more accurate than any public pulse. So I was keeping an eye on it, and odds makers started to say that either Beyonce or Taylor Swift will show up. And then the odds kind of went to Beyonce showing up, and then nobody came there at all, like you said. And I don't know if that was a mistake. Like, did something happen where she didn't show up, or did people just want to have Kamala Harris, have a very high rating in her views, which I think is more likely, because TMZ, who I think is fairly as crazy as it seems, is pretty reliable. I think TMZ has a pretty good track record of releasing information ahead of other news outlets that seems to be pretty much on point, and they said Beyonce was going to be the guest. I think with that sort of information out, I wonder where and who and what went wrong. But no, there was a headline: Kamala Harris beats Trump in convention speech ratings. Well, yeah, everybody thought they were going to get to watch Beyonce sing for the millionth time in their lives. So I think that was a ploy to get people to tune in. I actually think there were abortions being conducted outside the DNC. I don't know if you heard this, but it wasn't as like pagan as the RNC was in a lot of ways. I think
the actual DNC. I didn't watch the whole thing.
DNC. The only thing was who was it? Was it Kupich? Interreligious dialogue in the spirit of was it Dolan of New York, where they hide their cross and they hide their cross and they don't make this. They don't even make the sign of the cross. Like, you're like, quote unquote Catholic giving a public prayer and you don't do names, you don't make your prayer in the name of the triune God. Like it's very ecumenical.
Well, and to
his
even come
part.
on the stage where they are publicly having abortions outside of the, I mean,
well, I know nothing was
pretty questionable to me
said
for a cardinal. That's
nothing was said about it at all. Now, of course, we know. I think he's a bit more liberal as it is, and I think there are some in the Novus Ordo land who probably would have said something. I think you could. You would have had a better shot if you brought in maybe say Strickland or I don't know. I think or who am I thinking of? Maybe Schneider, one of them. I think maybe you had a better chance of something being said or brought up, but no, they opened it up that way, and as you said, really uneventful. I mean, they keep putting out there that this convention, this party, is one of joy and of all that. I don't know why they keep throwing that word around, but
well, they really think that if they say
it
enough, people are going to believe it. I think they actually think that. They really think if we say joy, if everyone who comes on the stage says we're a party of joy, then they are a party of joy. Well, Matt, they were killing babies in the parking lot. Yeah, that's joy. That's joyful.
And what I like is that the New York Times of all newspapers have said Saturday, joy is not a policy. And I was like, wow, somebody said something about that. But how about we didn't mention this? I think we missed this. Donald Trump was on Spaces with Elon Musk, and they netted 1 billion plus views.
Crazy.
And it was just really weird. I put it on my phone the night it came on, and like it almost felt like he was sitting among us and that we were just having a chat. It was kind of cool. I think he should do that more often. I think that would be a good strategy. Trump made a TikTok, from what I hear. I don't know much about that, but he made a TikTok, and I guess his views among a certain young audience base are pretty high. He's getting a lot of traction that way. And just, I guess, one kind of final point before we kind of go into maybe Kennedy or whatever, but I don't know if I believe the polls. I refuse to believe that Kamala is this popular, where she leads in every poll, where she just beats Trump in all these swing states and all of that. Because when you look at the actual issues, when people are polled on the issues, Trump wins pretty handedly. Who do you trust to handle the economy? Who do you trust to handle the border? Who do you trust to handle inflation? Trump is winning by 20, 30 points in these polls. I don't know how this adds up to a Kamala lead overall, but
well, that's what my dad was saying. My dad was saying the other day that he saw on Twitter they've had polls as well, and that the Trump in the Twitter polls is winning something like 80%, constantly, 75 to 25, and it's like, and I mean, Twitter, I think these days probably is a little more right wing biased, but not. I don't think that much. I mean, I think it's pretty balanced. So why on earth is it that you have 75? You have 3/4 of the vote going to Trump, and then you do Rasmussen and Rasmussen I think has Trump 51%. Just
plus 2 or plus 3.
Yeah.
Elon Musk put a poll out, almost 6 million votes, I believe, and Trump won 75-25, and that is basically, as your father said, that is basically the margin or the spread among any poll that is put out. There are some big name outlets that are putting out polls on Twitter that are getting hundreds of thousands, if not millions of votes, and that's constantly the end result: 70-30, 80-20, all the time. So I think Nate Silver, the popular pollster there, I think he has Kamala up 7 as of this weekend in the polls, 48-41 or around that area. And I don't know who or how or when. I'm just like, the polls I think were fairly accurate in 2016 and 2020. I don't know how if I really believe all these
2016 wasn't. 2016 had Hillary up huge.
But what was the popular vote though? I don't know if it was that far off. I know Trump won. That's the thing,
but I don't think it wasn't extreme. He definitely lost it. Yeah.
But I wonder how many percentage points, and I wonder by what percentage the final market had. Because if I go back to the odds makers, they have, as of Sunday, it's a 50-49 Kamala, however you say her name. But the popular vote, she has a 75% chance of winning the popular vote, according to odds makers. So I am shocked. I thought she was an absolute non-issue. I thought Trump was literally walking, might as well pack his bags and take up residence now. I thought he was literally walking into the White House. And now, as of August 26th, 2024, the official announcement, Kev, I do predict Kamala Harris will win and I don't know if you agree with me, but I do
I don't.
Wins
But
are in her favor.
I think it's I'm with you there. I think Trump wins, but I think it is way closer than it should be. I think Trump's made some big mistakes. Trump, like Trump, the perfect example of Trump, like his speech at the RNC a couple weeks ago,
in my opinion.
Well,
I hated
it could have been so good. So if he had just ended after 20 minutes, his first 10, 15 minutes were really good. I thought that they were really on point. They were heartfelt. It was really nice. And then he just droned on for another hour. And it was like, dude, just stop. I mean, there's times to chat, and do like an the thing with Elon Musk and talk for an hour, or 2 hours. Great. Don't do it in a convention. You need to get up there and get out. And he didn't. And he's had several of these kind of faux pas. It's like, okay, what's going on? But I heard, so he recently brought back the guy who was a big part of his campaign in 2016, Lewandowski. And since he came back on, as far as I've heard, you've seen kind of a shift towards much more logical thing. And like, I think he's back on track. Trump is, that is. And I think it may be Lewandowski who's doing this.
Well, it's funny because I consider the same thing. I think, and man, I feel like I have a lot of opinions on this, but then I feel like my opinion changes every week. I think his campaign is doing all the wrong things, but I noticed that a lot of the content he's put out lately is more so the 2015-esque Trump. He has said that he's gone back to the things of like he just said this the other day that illegal border crossings will result in the death penalty. If you burn the American flag, you'll get 1 year in prison. This was the kind of rhetoric that I think he threw out there in 2015 that people ate up, and I think his base got fired up and he ran with it and he run with it. The Trump up until really this point, I don't see, Kev, how he was different from Romney or McCain of the past few years. What's Fair. The difference? You could even argue that someone like Romney was more pro-life than what Trump has said in a lot of ways. I don't really.
Well, they decided. Sorry. They decided that the pro-life issue was too dangerous. Which it's too relevant. It's too dangerous. You cannot make that your priority because that's what the Democrats want. That's their one agenda. Like they have no agenda. They have no plan. They have no platform except abortion, and that's like pretty factual. Well, and so you don't want to fight them on that because there are, for whatever reason, America likes killing babies or thinks you should have that freedom. It's disgusting. But it's true. So
there's a deeper game of chess here, and I talked about this with Anna. The Democrats don't want to enshrine Roe v. Wade into law because they've said that for decades now, right? We want to protect abortion rights. We want to do X, Y, and Z. And they haven't done it. They've had the White House. They've had both chambers of Congress. Of the last 16 years, Democrats have controlled the government for 12 of them. So they've had a lot of power in both chambers of the Congress and in the White House. And they have really done nothing to protect those abortion so-called rights because it's over for them if they do. Because think about it. They win so much on the abortion issue. I think they do very well with it. If abortion becomes a non-factor, if they enshrine it into law and it's that's it. It's kind of like gay marriage. It just sweeps the states. That's it. It's enshrined to the Constitution. If they amend the Constitution and all that, it's a non-issue anymore. They need it to be an issue. They need abortion to be an issue that they could put out there and say that they're fighting for you for. Because if they make it legal in all aspects of it, then they don't have much to what are they going to they'd have to switch their campaign strategies, and they have to switch the issues that they're talking about because they need abortion to be fought over. They can't have a win in the fight there, otherwise they lose that chess piece to win your votes over with if it's a non-issue. So I think there's chess in a lot of it. I don't think, and this is just my personal opinion, I don't think, because people say Democrats and Republicans are on the same team, but Trump is the great disruptor. I don't know if he's as big as a disruptor as people think. I think he's probably involved in a lot of it. I think he's got his foot in a lot of it. And I think and you and I have said before, I think candidate Trump was very different from President Trump. And I think he's lost a lot of the base in trying to win over blacks and Hispanics.
I mean, you just think about what has Biden done? Let's look at this even from even a Democratic perspective, what has Biden done? Like, what has he done?
He's done a lot. He's made everything worse. He's done a lot. It's just
right, but I mean,
nothing good.
Okay, positively, like what is he? I don't even understand how they, like, the economy is worse. There's war everywhere. That, you know, there's infighting. There's racism. Whatever nothing's better. Like I don't think they can even really argue that. That's why Kamala has done everything she can to separate herself from Biden, which is hilarious. But but I think Trump did do. There were good things. I mean, he was not perfect, but he did do good things. I mean, again, he did get Roe versus Wade overturned. He did get good judges, decent judges, and they're not great but good. And he did do some stuff.
I think, and we might have brought this up too before, Kev, or I can't remember if it was with another guest or with you, but I don't think that the overturning of Roe v. Wade under Trump, I don't think it was a pro-life victory. I don't think any of those justices on the conservative side cared about abortion. I think they took the issue at hand itself.
Some of them, not all of
them. I think I don't know if that wasn't at the heart of it. I don't think any of them revisited it because they said abortion is a grave sin. It's murder.
Maybe Clarence Thomas. But
he might have, but yeah, it was ruled as just unconstitutional because abortion doesn't have.
But it's a win. I mean, he put on judges who actually want a rule of law, and who actually want the rule of law that our founders put in place, which does have some good things. And again, I know everyone's it's Freemasonic, but there are, they did say that our rights come from God. It is the natural law. A lot of the laws are based on natural law, and so I mean, it's not all terrible. It's not like this catastrophe that many, black pillars want you to think. So I think if you have judges who are going to do that and just try their best to make it so that at least we have a country that is run by law, I mean, that's better. Certainly better than the alternative. I mean, who's the lady that Biden put on, Jackson, right? And she, if you hear her talk, she sounds like she barely graduated ninth grade. And it's not being racist. I don't care. And not even sexist. I mean, like, I don't care if she's a woman or black, or I really don't care. But she doesn't sound overly intelligent. I'm sorry. It's just, and so it's like, I mean, is that what we get from?
Well,
a good thing from Trump.
The thing that's really funny is we are so far gone from whatever your opinions are on of the founding fathers' vision for our country. Like, they talk about banning guns. The president has no authority over that. The president has zero authority over the Second Amendment whatsoever. It's a state's issue. So anything that the president does to restrict gun rights or to ban X, Y, and Z is totally he has no authority whatsoever to do that.
And they should like literally how it was
one
founded,
example.
The people should actually rise up with guns to overthrow a government that's trying to take their guns. That if you're actually basing on what America was founded on, that's the actual reason. Like, you're supposed to have guns to fight against the domestic and the foreign and domestic enemies, and the domestic enemy is the one who's trying to take your guns so that they can control you. That's the whole entire point. It's like, well, do you need this gun to shoot deer? It's like, no, that's the point is that you do scare your government. The government works for you. You do, and the only way you can actually scare them is by having weapons. Look what's happening in England right now. Have you seen England? England right now, if you tweet something like, I don't know,
a meme,
Muslims are bad, or whatever, a meme, you can go to prison for over a year. That's not hyperbole, guys. Go look it up. It's insane. And you know why it's so easy for the British government to do so? Because the British don't have guns. And I'm not. I don't like that every crazy person can have a gun and shoot people up. That is a absolute downside. I totally agree, and that something should happen about that. But 2A makes sense for a big, big reason.
And I think, one of we kind of jumped around a little bit here, but if we go back to the convention a little bit there, nothing was really movable. I don't really even think that Kamala got a convention bounce, as would be typical, but I look forward to the debates. I know it's September 10th is the first debate between the two, and I hope that Trump is hard on her, and I hope that he doesn't let her bully him, because I think she's going to pull the stuff she pulled on Mike Pence of I'm talking. Correct. And Mike Pence got a little pushed around in that moment. I think Pence is a very skilled debater. I think he was very skilled. Nice. But he let her walk all over him there, and I hope that Trump doesn't do that. I hope that he kind of says, well, hang on. Well, why do I have to stop talking because you feel like you are entitled to talk, right? I just hope he pushes back on her a little bit with there, because she will try to be tough and bully herself around a little bit to kind of, the party of joy needs to be a little aggressive at times, but I just hope I honestly, and people think that Trump beat Biden so bad in the last debate that's what knocked Biden out. I don't think Trump really slammed dunk Biden. I think Biden was just dopey. It wasn't a Trump win.
Trump
I don't think at all.
No, but I think Trump was really smart. Trump just let
him make his mistakes.
Himself.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly.
Correct.
Trump was just like, hey, I'm not going to, because I think the worst thing Trump could have done was like make fun of him. And Trump was really smart. He didn't pick on him. He said, like, one thing is like, I don't think you even understand what you just said, which was pretty big, but he was actually pretty gentle, which I think was a really good idea.
It was Trump quoted General Patton after the debate. He said, "Never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake."
Yeah,
that's exactly what it's what he did. But I think if you remember those 2015 debates with the 10 Republicans on the stage, Jeb and who was the governor of Wisconsin, Walker, I forget who it might have been, but just all of them up there, Rand Paul. I think Trump was so good and so aggressive and so on point when he called all of them out to their face, and I think he's lost that a little bit. I think, I mean, another thing that I thought about too is he's 10 years older. That was 10 years ago, 9 years ago, 10 years.
He's almost 80. He's almost 80. Yeah.
I mean, he was just 70 at that point. So he's also 10 years. We can't forget that either. Like, you got to slow up a bit somehow. But the Kennedy endorsement, Kev. The Kennedy.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, I would have loved to see Biden, Trump, and RFK, and I think that's what a lot of people would have liked. And I think that's why RFK coming out and supporting Trump is a really big deal. I think I actually think it will win Trump the presidency. I actually think it's a big enough boost that I do think it's going to win it for him. And I know it could go either way, but I think it's good just to get, because RFK really had kind of this weird little cornered market where it's people who don't like the super old men and people who don't,
he had
they just don't like Trump, they don't like Biden, and then so it was actually originally what RFK had 12%, and then Biden dropped out, and it dropped almost half. And so the people who hated Biden went to Kamala, and then it was just a lot of people who hated Trump or people who liked RFK, and that was about 5% of the vote, I think. And now RFK is supporting Trump, so you got to imagine you're going to get maybe 3% or something, in addition, or maybe an extra +2, which is in many states should be enough. And I think it's going to. And his speech was. Did you watch his speech?
Oh, it was very good. Actually, it was very good. He really touched on a lot of things that, I have a hard. Let me actually, before I say this, let me jump back a little bit. I think from what a lot of even some CNN, MSNBC type talking heads have said is that Kennedy has just large enough of a population as a third, which usually a third party candidate doesn't have, but he has a large enough demographic that could actually sway the election. And the Democrats are not happy about it for that very reason, especially in the swing states. So Kennedy said the strategy now is to go to Pennsylvania, Michigan, Nevada, Arizona, those states that are close, and to throw his support behind Trump to sway the election towards him. And I think, as you said, if Trump wins, it will be, I think, because Kennedy's votes swung over. And I think it was almost 60%. It was like 60 to 30 Trump to Kamala as to where his voters go. So I think that's one thing. But when I listened to him, and his speech was really good the other day, and I go back and forth between things like he's part of the swamp, he's probably a Mason, it's probably all a script that they're reading to be a part of the play, to this seemed really sincere, and this seemed really genuine. And I think a lot of his concerns are genuine, true, good, valid concerns that he said that he was going to talk about, about health and vaccines and the crisis of, we talked about this before we came on, giving your newborn baby 40 vaccines that seem to be a little bit too much. So I don't know. I think he says a lot of things that are sincere. There's that little voice in my head that always says they're reading a script because they're all puppets to the same powers that be. But then I go back and I think, maybe he is pretty sincere. Maybe he is pretty genuine, and maybe he can bring on a lot of good. Because I know Trump said he would give him a position in the administration too. So it would be cool to have him in. And I think, who would have ever thought? You go back, and I know members of the Kennedy family have come out and have said this is a disgrace. Our family is distraught that this would even happen. But who would have thought, however many years ago, thinking that a big name Kennedy, not one of those side third cousins twice removed, but a big prominent member of the actual core Kennedy dynasty would be endorsing Republicans. What a crazy movement.
But if you look at the Democratic Party of JFK and RFK Sr., you see a very different party. You know, I mean, because people are like, okay, RFK, you know, or JFK, you know, one of the, you know, Catholic presidents, even though immoral guy, he was a Democrat. It's like, yeah, but if you actually look at what he stood for, it's not what we consider Democrats at all. It wasn't leftist.
One thing to say about that is, did you know that Bobby Kennedy, the father in the 60s, Bobby Kennedy, he was actually pretty devout Catholic. He they had statues of Our Lady and all of that in his home, and he had a crucifix in each of his children's bedrooms, a holy water font in each of his children's bedrooms, and a picture of Our Lady in each of his children's bedrooms. And they all did their nightly prayers together as a family way back then. So I was reading about that the other day. So that's interesting. And I think you could also, you're right. I mean, obviously the Democrat Party today is not the Democrat Party of the Kennedys, but I think you could even make an argument that the Republican Party of today is the Democrat Party of the 2000s. I mean,
yeah.
We've talked about how is where the Republicans stand today different from where the where the Democrats were on abortion.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Yeah. I mean, I'd say a war, you know, I mean, but really the Democrats were the anti-war party until Obama, right? I mean, basically, I mean, that's what they always said. You
correct.
know,
and then I would agree with that.
The war hawk, and then Obama came in and just continued all the wars. But I'd say, yeah, Democrats were kind of known for, okay, they were supposed to be, you know, anti-big pharma, anti-big business, anti-big, you know, war, and it just
they're big everything.
All switch, yeah, exactly, and that's why, you know, JFK wanted to tear down the Fed. You want to get rid of the secret societies, etc. And I think that just shows you that, you know, it's almost flipped completely. And so, as you say, you know, Trump now is probably more similar to Bill Clinton than to JFK. I don't know who you want to compare him to, but you know, he is. I think you're right. It's very similar.
If you listen,
that's why everyone who like worships Trump and what he does is like, hey, I do think he's a much better option, and I hope he wins. I'm going to vote for him. But this like worship of like, oh, he's just this, you know, little saint on heaven on earth. Is like, nah, he's not.
If you and I don't want to repeat everything because it probably will get this show banned, but if people to think of where the Republican Party once were and where they are now, watch Pat Buchanan's address to the RNC in 1992 or 4. What year did Clinton? Maybe 96. No, I'm sorry, 92. So Pat Buchanan addresses the Republican convention in 92. It's a speech called Culture War. The things that you hear him say in that speech, you would never hear a Republican talk about today. Those are so long gone principles and values that are just have no place in the current Republican Party. But it is weird how that pendulum does kind of swing, and it makes me wonder where we're going to go. Like where are they? Do you think that there's ever a chance for another party to come out, or do you think we're exclusively Democrat, Republican?
They would have to.
I think there's a movement. There is some sort of movement. If MAGA
they would have to do something like what they did in England. So in England, this last election, they voted heavy left, but they didn't get that. So I shouldn't say that the left won big time, but not because the left got a lot of votes. They actually got very few votes, but it was because nobody voted for the right. Nobody. It's because they just said, hey, you know, we're done with you. We're literally done. We don't want you even in the country anymore. And I think that Nigel Farage came in at the last minute, like 2 months in, and still got quite a few, you know, parliament seats. And it shows you that there is definitely a possibility. But the only way I think you can do it, you'd have to say, like in the U.S. this year, it would literally be if you just say you'd like do a national boycott, that the Republicans, people who are registered Republican, just don't vote. They just don't show up. And so Kamala wins by 90%, and then, you know, the next elections, then it's like, hey, nope, the Republican Party is dead. But it's not going to happen.
It is. Well, it is always strange because Romney losing to Obama gave us Trump. If Romney won, which I thought he was going to win, I think there's a chance that election was stolen. It wasn't brought up until 2015, but I do say that Romney beat Obama. But that gave us Trump. So I think if Kamala wins, which again is what my inclination is, who knows what kind of swing that might turn into, similar to what Obama did. I mean, there's nothing that has been and as you said too, Kamala is out there saying grocery prices are too high, everything is too high, she's going to fix it on day one. How disconnected from reality can you be that these are your policies that is that is running everything, and that you're saying needs fixing from, and needs healing from, and needs recovery from. This is all you. So I think if it might not be a bad thing. And first, I don't buy into the whole thing that if she wins, then our country is done. If she wins, then we're doomed. We've heard that have we not heard that every election's like have you not, from what you remember going back to whoever your first really major election was, that this is a pivotal point? Pat Buchanan says it in his 92 address. This is the most important election of your lifetime. They say that every time. And what
but I mean, in the U.S., eggs are double the price under Joe Biden. So I mean, it could go double again. And if that's the case, then yeah,
then we're not having bacon and eggs in the morning anymore.
No, you're eating bugs. You're eating bugs, man. That's going to make a really, really good, I don't know, lasagna.
Salamander lasagna.
Yeah, exactly. With bugs. Yeah. Italian food with bugs. That's the future that you have if Kamala wins. Something to look forward to.
Nasty. But I mean, it is interesting too how history is written. I was reading this article the other day because it was about the convention and about how Michelle, Big Mike, and Barack spoke at the convention, and how wonderful and great of a president Obama was, and how he's ranked constantly among the top tier of presidents.
Why?
For someone, obviously, as you've lived through it, times are horrible.
Yeah.
He was a horrible president, and our quality of life was horrible. Who puts him in this top tier? So it makes me think, if I read stuff like that, I don't know. If I read stuff like that and you think about what reality truly was, there's a great disconnect. So how much of what we've read in history is just biased towards other? It makes me question a lot of.
It's a really good question, and I think you see that when you start looking into things like the Spanish Inquisition and the Crusades, and the people who wrote the history books, mostly JOOSs. They
Queen Mary.
Yeah, they're the ones who really make it. So it looks like the Catholics are just these terrible people. It's like, well, actually, factually, not.
In years ago, well, 2019, 2020, I had a friend who knew somebody who lived in England, and they put us in touch to, we were doing a little project together. There was like a conservative newspaper sort of thing that people were putting together. So her and I became friends, and the comment of Queen Mary Tudor, Bloody Mary, was brought up. And she knew nothing about the topic other than this woman was a monster. This woman was evil. This woman, all we hear about here is how awful Queen Mary was and all that. But when you actually look at it, Queen Mary was totally justified. She's one of my favorite monarchs. She was totally justified in all she did, and her fight to overturn the Protestant Revolution in England, and all of the she sent Protestants. She imprisoned them and all of that. And when I presented all this information to her, she's like, "Oh, I didn't know that. None of that was taught to us here. All of our books, all of our articles, everything that we're told to believe was that she was an evil, wicked woman." And it just goes to show you how the narrative is shaped. Go ahead.
Just on that topic, I just ordered a book by suggestion by my friend Sean from WM Review. Shout them out, wmreview.com. It's called Fires of Faith, Catholic England under Mary Tudor.
No kidding, really? That's ironic.
I haven't read it yet. I just ordered it, so it should come in a couple of weeks. I'll let you know though. But exactly, I think that's the kind of stuff we need to learn the actual history, because I think exactly as you said, it's written by victors or by a certain class or religion of people who, whoever it is, typically hates Catholics.
Catholics,
and it's not just Catholics. They also lie about all sorts of other things, and it is one of those sad things. It's like we won't really know history until, God willing, we go to heaven, and then as we that's
how old is the Earth?
Yeah, how old?
Well, really need to
get into
really reach to know. What do you think? Is it 10 billion years old, or is it 16,000 years old?
I'm somewhere in between, honestly. I think men have been around for, what do they say? 7,000? I think that's true. I think that's biblical. You can say the generations counted down by Adam. That's in the Bible. So I'm game to say that men have been around that long. I think the Earth was created longer ago. I think I don't know. Maybe it's, let's say, 1 million. Just hypothetically, let's say 100,000. I mean, I think if you look at the Earth, even geologically, I think it makes sense to not just be 10,000 years old. But I certainly could be wrong. I know some people think that that's like blasphemous. It's absolutely not. I do think that you got to be careful saying that men have been around for longer than 7,000.
I agree because of Adam. I agree because of
right,
Adam.
and because we have the actual lineage, we have that
right
in the Bible. And again, the Bible's, you do have to take it literally, but it's not always literal. So if that makes any sense whatsoever, but no, it's an interesting topic, and I think it's one that yeah, maybe we'll have to talk about it.
Do you have an expert on that, Kev? Anyone you could bring on, young Earth, older?
I've tried, actually. I really tried to get on. We talked about geocentrism one time, and it went terribly. But I think the idea of talking about even geological surveys and what I think is very interesting, because I do think that I don't buy the whole carbon dating type stuff. I don't. Did you see the news about the Shroud of Turin, by the way?
Yes.
Anyway, the carbon dating and stuff, I think is I just don't really buy it. I just think that there's way too many ways for it to go wrong. I think science should be something that is observable, at least in some way. And a lot of these dating patterns are just like, you can observe to a certain point, and then it's just you're replicating that observation, which can't make sense. It always makes sense because you don't actually know you don't know all of the parameters or whatever that existed. I don't know, let's say 1 million years ago. So maybe there was way more hydrogen in the air, and so the rocks aged short. You can't really know because you can't observe it. And so I think you can guess, you can say, yeah, I think maybe this rock could be 1 billion years old, but okay, yeah, it could also be 10,000. We don't really know. But I do think it's a little far-fetched in my mind to say that the Earth is only 10,000. That just to me that seems short. What do you think? Are you a short Earth?
Oh man, no, I more young than old. I think the idea that the Earth is 32 billion years old is absolutely ridiculous.
I agree.
But I also agree that I don't think there actually is what's it called? I don't know how Vatican II they are, but the Fatima Center with who's that? All the names are escaping me. Not the Sede Vacantist Fatima Center, but there's another one where they did a it's an Irish name, so of course I forget it. That was a joke. Hugh McCowan or whatever, where they did a whole thing about the Earth. And let me see if I can pull it up really quick. Let me go to YouTube. Why is a Fatima Center? Hugh Owens, maybe. Hugh Owens.
That's not that Irish.
No, it's not. I thought it was a MC.
Don't be racist, man. Maybe. Don't be an Irish hater.
Hough. Let me try that, and then I think forget it. Well, maybe I'll put it in the comments. But there is a thing where they did study this, and he argues in his talk that dinosaurs did indeed exist, and they coexisted with humans. And he says that there's a lot of geological evidence that supports that. How real it is, who knows? But his argument is that the dinosaurs did live. All of those bones that which I think could be another topic for another day. But that they did exist, and that they didn't exist all that long ago. Well, in tens of thousands of years, and they lived alongside human beings. So yeah, I think the whole thing that if I had to guess, I would probably be a bit more along your lines. I don't know about millions, but we agree with Adam, and I think probably in the millions is probably 1 million years old or whatever is probably, and we'll never know. I don't think there's ever a way to really, because there's no one going to give an infallible answer here, and the church isn't going to speak on it. So I don't think that there's ever going to, we won't know. No, and I wonder, I guess when in heaven, will you know the answer to, will you care? I don't know.
That's a really good question. I think you're going to care, but you're not. Come on, you're in the presence of God. You're not going to be like,
which I kind of. But maybe
there was a friend of ours who one time we were traveling. We were talking about. Yeah, I don't know what we were talking about. We were talking about but her comment was, the first. What did she say? The first thing I'm going to do when I get to heaven is.
What's your first question?
Oh, okay. She said, do you think you just know, or do you have to ask about who killed JFK, or about anything?
About JFK.
It's a really good question. Do you think you have to ask, or do you think you just know? That's actually a really interesting question. I would think you would just know. I don't think. I don't know.
My inclination was to give it another answer.
To ponder heaven, though, isn't it?
But are you infused with? Well, you're infused with knowledge, right? You gain that. There's actually, my Catholic faith talks about all of the gifts that you get in heaven. If I could pull it, it's in there. Did you know with our resurrected bodies that we will be able to travel at the speed of light? Like we could. It's in the catechism.
I vaguely remember something like that.
It's
Man,
how weird is that?
yeah, you're convincing me to want to go to heaven.
Sorry, I know that. Remember the show? Remember the show Gumby?
I can travel at the speed of light if I go to heaven.
The speed of light.
Man,
the hospital's not so far away anymore.
I heard talking about this in sermons more often. I mean, come on, man. This sounds
7 gifts, man. If you give me 2 seconds, I bet I don't have it here. That's one good thing about Twitter is that I've tweeted so much of this, and you can just pull up a quick search. And of course, I don't know how to spell resurrected without autocorrect.
Don't admit these things out loud, man. first key. It is terrible. Isn't it terrible how bad you get at spelling when you?
I have forgotten a lot,
man. Same.
Or a word doesn't look right.
Yeah.
Let me see here. I don't think I have it. It's in my Catholic faith. If anyone has that catechism,
well, we'll have to talk. Maybe we'll talk about it next week. We had several things today that came up.
There's like seven attributes that you obtain in heaven with our resurrected bodies. It's just like, I don't know. Like the first question you would ask is, who killed JFK? Is that what you said?
I think that's what the comment was. If I remember, I think it was mostly
that's what
kidding.
She needs to know.
Like,
well, maybe for next week we'll come up with a question. My mind would.
I mean, I already know who killed JFK, so that's honestly, I'm just not that interested in that. Huh?
My question would be: was the 2012 election stolen from Mitt Romney? That I need to know.
I like it. I like it.
I think no. I'm going to think about that, and I'll come back next week to what would be my one question.
Your first question in heaven. Okay, I have to know. I like it.
I need to know.
All right.
I wonder if I need time to come up with this.
Well, we got a week, Matt. We'll talk about that. Maybe we're going to talk about do dinosaurs exist? Ina, do dinosaurs exist? She shakes her head. She thinks not. It's actually a really interesting question. I lean towards they did. I'm
there's also
on both sides.
The Titanic. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that a lot of it was faked or was.
There's definitely some weird stuff.
There was a scheme behind it all,
for sure.
Yeah. But because if you think about it, people say, well, they discovered the first dinosaur bone like 100 years ago, which is kind of odd in the history of things that millions of years. But then again, they didn't have the equipment to dig as they do now. So
how many past societies have had like dragons and other images throughout their iconography for thousands of years?
Hugh, whatever his last name is, Mr. Irishman.
That makes sense that there was some big things that were flying around that were called dragons.
When you go to like a museum and whatever, and you see none of it's real. I think they claim to have like 1 or 2 bones, but a lot of it is just
and they make
you're not really looking at a dinosaur skeleton just chilling in your local museum.
Can you please stop ruining my? Let's go back to flying
childhood
in heaven, okay? Don't ruin my childhood.
Flying
dinosaurs aren't real. Oh man, we were on such a good streak there, man. Let's keep positive, Matt. Positive way. It might be Kamala Harris as the president, in November. And if so, we're going to really need to work on our optimism and our joy. Our joy, man. Let's be joyful. Yeah. Let's be joyful. Just remember,
President,
if we go to heaven,
just remember, if
when our bodies are resurrected, we can fly at the speed of light.
If she wins,
Catholic Family Podcast.
If she wins, nobody will be more angry than Hillary Clinton. I mean,
it's probably true.
I got to because to give her whatever credit I should, Hillary Clinton clawed and fought and scratched and went through billions of debates and trips and miles and states and
she was actually political.
And then this woman here, which is like, oh, by the way, you're the nominee, you don't have to do anything. That's got to keep her up at night.
Yeah, she's insert so and so into the Democratic platform. I mean, nobody really cares. I mean, and so it is a sham, really. But we'll see. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens, and I'm with you. Looking forward to the debates. But well, I'm sure for sure these days we'll have something interesting to talk about next week, and probably not so much noise in the background. Sorry about that, everybody. Everyone's like, I can't hear anymore. Welcome to the life of a parent. Anyway, well, it's interesting. I can end the stream too, so we're both co-hosting this, man. That's
really
cool.
I'll do it this time.
You do it. Yeah, do it.
Tell me when you want me to end it.
Sweet. Everyone, if you like this show, Matt and I, we definitely rambled today. My brain was very distracted by children throwing things around the house. But it was fun as always. Matt, it's good to see you again. Everyone, good to have you here as well. Please like, comment, share, all that stuff. Let us know. Do you think dinosaurs existed? What do you think? Do you guys think they did? And what percentage of dinosaur bones are fake in a museum? And what is the first thing you're going to ask when you get to heaven? That's the most fun. I like that one. Matt and I'll talk about that next week. We're both going to think about it. What's the first thing we're going to ask? It's not JFK. CIA killed JFK.
What's the right way to make marinade sauce?
With the CIA. George Bush. Easy. This is like common knowledge now. So we need some more interesting stuff. We'll think about it for next week. Matt, as always, it's been fun.